Okay, what if I told you that the secret to a full, passionate life is to first accept that life has no meaning at all? I know it sounds like a total paradox, right? But that's the powerful idea right at the heart of one of the 20th century's most important philosophical works. So let's dive in and explore how this really challenging idea can actually be a guide to living more fully.
So where are we getting all this from? Well, we're pulling our insights directly from Albert Camus' incredible 1942 essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. Now remember, this was written during the darkest days of World War II, and in it, he tackles the biggest question of all with just startling clarity and a whole lot of courage.
And Camus, he does not mess around. He opens the book with this absolute bombshell. He's basically arguing that before we can ask about anything else, about politics or ethics or whatever, we first have to decide if life itself is even worth the trouble. Everything else, he says, is just a game compared to that.
And that right there becomes the fundamental question. The one Camus believes every single one of us has to answer for ourselves. Before we can do anything else, we have to judge if this whole living thing is worth it. And even get started on that, we first have to understand this very particular feeling he identified.
Camus calls this the feeling of absurdity. And look, this isn't some complex, high-minded theory. He's talking about a raw human experience. That moment where the world you thought you knew suddenly feels, well, strange and totally unfamiliar.
He uses this incredible metaphor for it. He says, the stage sets collapse. Think about your daily routine, right? You work, you eat, you sleep, you do it all over again. Most of the time, we're just going through the motions. But then one day, out of nowhere, you just ask, why? And suddenly the whole routine feels hollow. The justifications just vanish. And you're left standing on this bare stage, wondering what the heck it's all for. That is the beginning of absurdity.
And right here, this is the core of the conflict. So on one side, you have us, human beings. We are meaning-making machines. We crave reason. We want clarity. We want everything to fit together in a nice, neat little story. And on the other side, you've got the world. And what does it give us back? Well, according to Camus, just unreasonable silence. It doesn't care one bit about our need for meaning. It's just chaotic and irrational.
So here's the crucial point, and you got to get this. The absurd isn't in us, and it's not in the world. It exists in the clash between them. It's that huge gap, that divorce, between our desperate call for answers and the universe's silent refusal to give us any. That confrontation, that's the absurd.
Okay, so you've had that feeling. You've recognized the absurd. Now what? Well, the first impulse for most people is to try and escape it. And Camus identifies this really common, but for him, totally dishonest way out. He calls it the leap. And he is crystal clear on this. Taking this leap is what he calls philosophical suicide. See, instead of living with the difficult, uncomfortable truth of the absurd, you just try to erase it. You pretend the problem was never there in the first place.
Let's just walk through the logic of this escape, okay? So first you feel that conflict, that meaninglessness, the absurd. But instead of staying with that tension, you reject it. You can't stand it. So you leap into a system, any system, that promises you meaning beyond what you can see and feel. This could be religious faith, a belief in some grand arc of history, whatever. Any big idea that tells you, hey, don't worry, it all makes sense in the end. But by doing that, you've just erased one half of the equation, the world's silence, and you've destroyed the very problem you were supposed to be solving.
But what if you don't leap? What if you refuse to escape? Well, for Camus, this is where life actually begins. By rejecting that leap and just staring the absurd right in the face, three really powerful consequences bubble up to the surface.
See, accepting the absurd isn't an act of despair. Not at all. It's the starting point for a brand new, totally honest, and vibrant way of living. It becomes the foundation for what Camus calls his revolt, his freedom, and his passion.
The first consequence is revolt. And let's be clear, this isn't about political revolution or anything like that. We're talking about a constant, personal rebellion. So what does this revolt really mean? It means living with full awareness of the absurd without ever giving into it. You don't just resign yourself and say, oh well, life is meaningless. No, you live in defiance of it. You keep that conflict alive every single day by consciously holding that tension in your mind, your desire for meaning on one side and the world's indifference on the other. It's a truly magnificent act of defiance.
So after revolt, what's next? You get a radical, profound kind of freedom. By accepting there's no ultimate meaning, no divine plan, no cosmic rulebook, you're suddenly completely liberated.
I mean, Think about it for a second. If there's no grand purpose you have to fulfill, no eternal reward you need to earn, and no future you have to constantly worry about and plan for, well, then you are absolutely free in the present moment. You're no longer a slave to hope or to some purpose that exists outside of your own life. Your life is yours, right here, right now.
And that freedom, it leads directly to the third and final consequence, passion. Because if this is the only life you've got, and there's no built-in meaning, then the whole goal of the game changes.
This line is just so crucial. Without a divine set of rules, words like best or moral suddenly become relative, don't they? So the goal shifts. It's no longer about living the best life, but about living the most life. It's about valuing the sheer quantity and intensity of your experiences. It's about cramming your limited time with the maximum amount of life, of awareness, and of feeling.
So what is a person who actually lives by these three principles: revolt, freedom, and passion? What do they even look like? Well, Camus has a name for this person. He calls them the absurd man, or even the absurd hero. So the absurd hero, this is someone who lives without asking for meaning or permission from some higher power. They're focused on this life, not a potential next one. They know their freedom is limited by time, and they cherish it. They reject the false comfort of hope and choose clear-eyed awareness, what Camus calls lucidity, instead. The goal isn't to save yourself for later, it's to expend yourself completely, right now. And in a world without a final judge, you are, fundamentally, innocent.
This right here, this is the ultimate commitment. It's a promise to yourself to hold nothing back, to look at the beautiful, tragic, and meaningless reality of it all, and to live with such passion and revolt that you drain every last drop of experience from your life.
And that leaves us with one final, very provocative thought. Camus' philosophy isn't just some abstract idea to think about. It's a challenge. It's a question for you. If you truly, deeply accepted that this life is all there is, no cosmic safety net, no appeal to a higher authority, how would that change what you do right now, today? What would you finally stop waiting for? And what would you start doing?